A new car brand, one that is progressive, logical, radical, and embraces the future. And this is its very first product, the Fisker Ocean. An all-electric SUV with many a difference. I am in Vienna to drive this car, an Indian media exclusive. This is the first car to come out of Fisker Inc., a new entity that plans to take the global EV market by storm. The Ocean will take on a sea of rivals globally. Everything from the BMW iX3, Tesla Model Y, and upcoming Audi Q6 e-tron. But it will also do battle with the likes of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and it's about the same size as that one too. There's a few things about the car that grab you right away. First, I think, is the fact that when you approach it, it kind of seems like it's nice and compact, really taut, and yet it is actually quite a big car. I mean, it's almost 4,800 millimeters long. And look at the way the wheels have been pushed out. You've got this long wheelbase. The wheels themselves, huge, nice and chunky. They really fill out the wheel arch, not too much of an overhang. That just gives the car a certain character about itself. It's really planted, chunky and solid. It's also kind of squarish. It's not all swoopy and curvy, as you typically tend to see, especially in the electric crossover space. Because of aerodynamics, a lot of those cars tend to be really round. This one isn't, and that makes it stand out. The other thing which is nice is that coming from a designer, you of course have a few little hints and touches of that, which add to the flamboyance of the design. So it's of course in the face where you see a distinct identity in terms of the headlamp and the grille, but it's also the little touches like the indicator, which is kind of like this curved LED element. It's very distinct, really stands out. Looks nice when you see the car approaching in the rearview mirror. You've also got the indicators integrated into the mirror here in a very flamboyant way. That's something really different. It makes it very recognizable for sure. And speaking of indicators, there's one integrated into this D pillar of sorts back here, which is really nice because it adds a nice design detail, gives the car a distinct look or identity, and of course it's still functional because it is an indicator. The LED treatment continues into the taillights, really slim, very minimalist, again gives the car a certain identity too. The Ocean is every bit the robust-looking, squarish SUV, and yet it is low-slung and sleek. That's a design coup in many ways. And then it has its unique feature and function. And don't miss those extra windows in the rear, what Fisker calls doggy windows, which can be opened. Like all cars, this one also has its little bag of tricks, and there are some USPs which are just specific to the Ocean. You won't find that on other cars. Let me talk you through a couple of them. I think the first thing that begs a lot of attention is the fact that it has this solar roof. They call it the solar sky, and basically what it means is that you've got these solar cells embedded into the roof. While that might not seem revolutionary to you, the part that is fun is that the roof can still open. It still slides open. And as you saw what I just did, I just used the key fob. This is something they call the California mode. Yeah, that's right. You want to get the sun and the wind into the car. So it's not a convertible, it's not a Targa top, but it's the next best thing. So when you press the California mode button in the car or indeed on the key fob, all the windows open. Even these little glass panels here slide down, by the way. So these aren't just fixed glass panels. The roof opens and then the rear windscreen also goes down. So it just turns into like this buggy. It's very cool, very different. It's a nice USP. And then of course, having the solar roof is not just for show. It actually does send charge back into the battery. And it's something that can happen when the car is standing still, which is most of the time, remember. And in our market, most of the time, well, at least half of the time, it's in the baking sun anyway. So a lot of power that can go back into the battery. So it's not just a showpiece. It's not just a gimmick. It's something practical and usable. And then you got the California mode. Cool, right? Sexy? You bet. Different? Oh man, yes. Quite the conversation starter. And frankly, a lot of fun on the road too, if you have good weather, as I do. When it comes to a brand new car, I'm talking about something that starts from scratch. then you really look for specific things, because when it's a carryover or an upgrade, then you're talking about common platforms or engines or, well, powertrains, I should say, that you're familiar with. So you're kind of already looking for certain things, or you're used to certain things. When it's absolutely new, well, then everything becomes important. I'm talking about the basic stuff like ride comfort, just the overall handling, obviously the performance. Now you might say that, hey, aren't you supposed to do that with every new car? Well, yes, of course, but it just takes on a whole different connotation when it's from the ground up new. The Ocean gets 3 different variants: Sport, Ultra and Extreme. The Extreme is the top spec and the car I'm driving today. It's also what's coming to India for starters. And there is a limited launch edition that adds some features over the Extreme called the Ocean One. There's 2 kinds of batteries on the Ocean. You have the base version, which is going to be the sport trim essentially, which comes with what they're calling the touring range battery, which is a lithium iron phosphate battery. And while it's good on performance, it's the hyper range, which is in the car that I'm driving right now, which is all about being more sophisticated, long driving range, and also, of course, better amount of battery power. So that's actually not a lithium ion battery like what you may be used to with most other electric cars. This one is a nickel manganese cobalt battery, and it gives you a driving range on the outside at 707 kilometers. The battery size, 113 kilowatt hour. A good amount of performance becomes very crucial and key to most premium electric vehicles. I'll tell you why I say that, because at the start there was a fascination for the electric vehicles, and so being electric was the cool part. Now you've had a situation where a lot of these buyers, they've been used to cars like Teslas and even the Audi e-trons and so many other competition cars, that they are looking for that little bit more. They're looking for the next thing. So basic things like, efficient battery performance, good acceleration, these things become almost like expected or standard. Now, interesting thing with the battery pack, you tend to kind of sit a little bit taller, very typical SUV-like ride height feel inside the car. So when I'm in the driver's seat, I really feel like this is this really tall, upright, big SUV, but the dynamics aren't quite like that. So you don't get body roll, you don't get a sense of being exaggeratedly tall like some SUVs tend to be. But the reason I say this, and the interesting part, is that when you see it in traffic, like I was following one some time ago, the car doesn't look so big, it doesn't look so tall. It sits quite nicely squat down on the road, and so the interior is very smartly done because it gives you that sense of SUV, which is what a lot of buyers definitely want these days, without necessarily the big bulk or the inconvenience of a car with that actual proportion. Now, in a car like the Ocean, you're going to get distracted because so much of the conversation, even for the buyer, frankly, and the user, therefore, is about technology. It's about these screens, it's about all the sensors, it's about, everything that the AI engine is going to be doing, or how you are connected to the cloud, etc. It does tend to overtake the conversation at times, but I can tell you that there seems to be enough focus on the actual drive dynamics too, because talk about first impressions, it's the ride quality. That's the first thing that sticks out as a huge positive for the Ocean. Now, most cars these days do have drive modes, electric cars more so. And so, of course, that goes with the territory. That is something you find on this one. But interesting names. You don't just have normal and eco and, sport or dynamic. You have Earth, which is like the eco mode, which is like your standard mode. So that's the other good thing. It's a good message that you kind of drive with an intention to try and conserve power. So Earth, it kind of goes with the whole naming convention of the car as well, right? But then you have the next mode, which is called Fun. I don't have to explain it to you, and it's nice to see that it's very direct. And then the one after that, it's called Hyper. I don't have to explain that one to you either. So it's not like, they're called Earth and Wind and Rain or something. It's not esoteric like that. But the Earth mode is the one that encourages you to be efficient with the driving, and then the other two encourage you to have more fun. And that's something you expect to do with an electric car. A little bit of exhilaration, lots of acceleration, and of course, all of that torque. So, the Ocean has it too. The steering has a nice weighted feel to it. Even in the Earth mode, it doesn't tend to become soft or loose. It's also pretty precise. I haven't had the opportunity to do something extremely dynamic with this car because we've of course been on public roads, but handling seems to be pretty much spot on too. The Ocean also gets an ADAS suite with features like lane keep and departure assist, emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, a rear view mirror that toggles between the actual image and a rear camera output, and there's even a sensor on the A-pillar that monitors the driver's attentiveness. The Ocean is packed with very innovative tech and a very smartly designed cabin that is comfortable and very roomy. The big star is that 17.1-inch touchscreen, which gives you a lot of functions for connectivity and infotainment. But it also has the very cool Hollywood mode that you're definitely going to want to know more about. For that, watch our separate video on the car's tech and interiors. The Fisker Ocean is still a very unique car. It is fun to drive and it's packed with a whole lot of innovation. The interesting thing is that unlike most of its rivals, Fisker is trying to position this as a relatively affordable model, especially in the United States. So initially in India, the Ocean will seem pricey because it will be a direct import. But in the long run, Fisker has a game plan that includes upcoming models and local assembly, and that will become a volumes play in India too. And the best is yet to come. After all, Fisker has already showed us an expanded lineup with the Alaska pickup truck and the Ronin Sports Tourer. Then there's the compact SUV called PEAR, that stands for Personal Electric Automotive Revolution, hoping to sell at a very competitive price. In India, that would be the 20 lakh rupee mark. And that car will be assembled by Foxconn. So get used to hearing the name Fisker, because for once, a global EV strategy is keeping India front and center in its rollout. And the Ocean is merely the first drop.